Good afternoon, family. Once again, it's your DC dude. If you are already a subscriber to this channel, then welcome back. If you are new to this channel, however, I recommend that you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can stay in the know about where we're gonna go. Today, family, we find ourselves at the RFK Stadium doing a kind of throwback, paying homage to, saying our farewells to RFK Stadium video. Way before there was even a RFK Stadium thought about, there was a stadium called Griffith Stadium. And that was where, kind of in the location where Howard University Hospital is today. It was there from between 1911 and 1965. That's where our professional baseball team and the Washington Redskins played. And I'm sure there were other sporting events played at that stadium. Speaking of our baseball team back in those days, the Washington Senators. Senators existed between 1901 and 1960, but between 1905 and 1955, they were actually called the Nationals. This is what we have today. And whatever reason, in 1956, they changed it back to the Senators. In 1960, the team moved to Minnesota. So anyway, Griffith Stadium started falling into disrepair in the 1950s. So by 1959, they began construction on this here stadium, the RFK. But back then, it wasn't called RFK Stadium. It was called DC Stadium. It only took 2 years to complete. They completed it in 1961. And how befitting is it that our very first game, the Washington Redskins' very first game in this stadium was against, guess who? The Dallas Cowboys. And believe it or not, we won that game 34-24. But we still had a horrible season. We were 1-12-1 that season. 1 win, 12 losses, and 1 tie. But we beat the Cowboys in our opening game in this stadium, RFK. The stadium was renamed in 1969, RFK Stadium, changed from DC Stadium, named after Robert F. Kennedy, of course. So by the 1980s, this stadium started to show signs of age the same way, Griffith Stadium and all structures do eventually, right? And so Jack Kent Cooke was the owner of the Washington Redskins at the time. He began lobbying for a new stadium, right? And a 10-year struggle ensued, just trying to decide where to put it. Anyway, it ended up in Maryland, long story short. So in 1996, construction began on a state-of-the-art stadium in Landover, Maryland, which was the largest stadium at the time for a short period of time before the new stadiums came along. And the last game, the very last Redskin game, because they were called the Redskins back then. I hope I'm not offending anybody by calling them that, but that's what they were called during that time. On December 22nd, 1996 was the very last game. Guess who we played? Just like we played the Cowboys in the first game, we played them in the last game. But we left this stadium with a bang. We beat the Cowboys 37-3 that year. Yes. Oh, and I forgot to mention, one of the big things about the Redskin games back in those days was how the seats used to rock. I mean, literally, there's a section of the stadium where you just bounce the Hogs and the Indian Chief. I mean, to be honest, and I don't want to get political or anything like that, but, I think this is one of the reasons that our team has been struggling. We haven't been real good since we left DC. And apparently Mayor Muriel Bowser is doing what she has to do to try to get this team back to DC, right? So from that point on, the DC DC United soccer team held it down, having their first game here on April 20th, 1996. They would be here for the next 20 years until they played their last game here on October 22nd, 2017, because they got a new stadium that's across from Nats Park. And as far as the Nationals, I didn't really talk about their story. You know, like I said, they were the Senators until 1960. So we didn't have a baseball team for 45 years until 2005, when the Montreal Expos moved to Washington. And so in 2005, the Nats played in this stadium and for 2 years, or 2 or 3 years, until they got their new stadium. And I believe it was in 2008. And that's where they are today, the Nats Park. Okay, so that makes, the soccer team the last to leave. Like I said, their last game was in 2017. So I read that they pay like $2 million a year in maintenance and $1.5 million in utilities just to keep this structure for the last 4 years. And nothing's going on inside. So it was announced in September of 2019 that they were going to demolish it in 2021. That's what they said then, right? But I'm sure due to COVID, bureaucracy, things never really happen when they first put it out there, when it's going to happen, right? So now they're talking about demolishes. It's going to be demolished next year, 2020. Excuse me. It's going to be 2022. It's going to be demolished, man. No more RFK. And, if I had to guess, I don't know what's going to replace it, but if I had to guess, it's probably going to be something like condos. I mean, look what happened with DC General across the street, right? It's just not the same over there, good or bad, however you want to look at it. Condos. And that's probably what's going to happen right here. I still think it needs to be a new stadium. I don't know if there's enough grounds to cover a brand new stadium because they're bigger than they used to be. But in any case, I digress. So family, the RFK Stadium was not just home to the Washington Redskins, which was the franchise's name before they moved to FedEx Field, but they were also home to the Washington Nationals. They were home to 5 professional soccer teams. They were home to 2 local college teams, and they were also home to a USFL team. I'm going to take y'all back. United States Football League in the 1980s called the Washington Federals, who, by the way, suck pretty bad, but that's neither here or there. In addition to being home to these major sports franchises, the RFK also hosted plenty of events. They hosted 1 college bowl game, 5 NFL football championship games, 2 Major League Baseball All-Star games, 3 minor league baseball All-Star games, men's and women's World Cup tennis matches, 9 men's and women's first round Olympic soccer matches, 3 MLS Cup matches. They hosted a bike race. They hosted plenty of boxing matches, dozens of concerts, and marathons. So right now I'm in the RFK parking lot. So in addition to having events at the RFK Stadium, there have been multiple events here in the parking lot. For instance, do y'all remember, and this is one of the rare ones, do y'all remember when there was a Le Mans racetrack? When they said they were going to build it, it just blew my mind. Like that Grand Prix type of racing where the cars going 200 miles an hour, hitting hairpin turns. I mean, they literally had turns like that. And I actually saw it one day because I was up on the metro and it was going over top of it. And the cars were flying around the track. It was crazy to have that in the city limits, right? And that became a problem too, because the homes over here had a problem with the noise at Oklahoma Avenue over here. And it's no surprise though, because it's super loud. So what the city did was give people, from what I heard, I don't know any details, but I think they got gift certificates to dinner and movies so they can leave the house and get away during that time. But I don't think it lasts past 1 season. Anyway, also in the parking lot, remember the carnivals? The carnivals over here all the time. I don't know if they still come. I think they actually do still come. Set up, during carnival season. We haven't seen it since COVID, of course. And then I noticed last week that the market has returned. I think that stopped during COVID too. But the open air food market, has been in the parking lot for years. So anyway, in addition to all the events at the stadium, the parking lot has many events as well. And today, I don't know if anybody is aware of the fields. That's been here for a couple years, I think, 2 or 3 years. And it's this whole soccer field thing going on. It's like 3 soccer fields, a play area for the kids, all kind of cool things like that. Anyway, I have a lot of memories here at RFK Stadium, and I kind of hate to see it go. It served the city well. It served the city well and left us with a lot of good memories. So we're gonna say an official so long to RFK Stadium. Y'all ready? Goodbye, RFK. I might come here the day they're demolishing it too, the same way I did when I went to DC General. I just might come here on that day to say goodbye to something who has been here all my life, personally. You know, because it was here before I was born in 1961, so I've always known RFK. And it wasn't, like I said, I only been to 2 football games here, but I guess my passion comes from every Thanksgiving. My uncle used to take the time, because he was into sports anyway. He worked at Kelly Miller Junior High School. I think he was a gym teacher. He had Little League football teams all around the city. So football was a big deal for him. And he brought us here every Thanksgiving to see the championship game, the Turkey Bowl, the championship game for the high schools. And right? I also have a lot of memories, a lot of good memories about the concerts that used to go down here. I mean, I've seen I'll Be Sure, I've seen Funkadelics, Parliament, Parliament Funkadelic. I can't even begin to name all the people I've seen here, because they used to have a concert here on a regular basis. I don't know if it was every single year, but it was called Chocolate City Jam, I think. So I have a lot of memories wrapped up in RFK Stadium. I kind of hate to see it go, but leave your memories in the comment, family. Looking forward to hearing about your experiences at RFK Stadium. Family, you will never know where we end up next. So if you want to ride, just click on subscribe.